right.
Going live, people. Let's do this.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, where were we?
Where were we?
Okay, I'll tweet
I
again,
don't know
Gabby.
because I couldn't hear. I literally couldn't hear anything. So yeah, I don't.
Let's try and share this too, and let's see.
Let's share this around. Get the word out. Let me see. Let
Tu-
me
tu-
see
tu-
if I
tu-
can find
tu-
it.
tu- tu- tu. Boop.
Okay. Boopity boopity boop.
Do you have the link, Gabby?
Yeah, I'll send it over on
I've
the.
got it here.
Thank you.
No
Boopity boopity
props.
boop.
So this is like a super.
Oh, it's gone. Could you
It's
send that again? Sorry,
we've been
it's
live for
gone.
a while. So what do you know?
We've been live for a while.
Oh,
Wow.
oh,
We're
oh.
Yeah, like
oh oh
on the
oh
Could you
oh
send
wild,
oh.
on
that?
the wild, and we can do
Oh,
we
okay.
can we can do like the song again.
Welcome to all our comrades around the world.
Welcome to all the comrades
Welcome,
around the world
all
to
our
the
comrades.
Socialist Sunday
Sunday
stream.
Welcome.
Welcome again to the continuation of what
Ooh,
we couldn't do
Part two.
before. I need to
part.
pop out the chat just in case if there's people hanging in here. Pop out the chat, and it's gonna
Let's just
happen here on the side
figure this out.
because I'm OBSing like right on the spot. Ah, people. Okay, so we were at the point where things were bad, were really bad, like with the fires and all in Brazil,
Mm-hmm.
and in a way, the change to the Bolsonaro government made things just added fire to the flame that was already going on. So I guess that's where we left it. And the media created like a
Yeah.
very conservative frame mindset for people out there in the world,
Mm.
like all over the world, and particularly in Brazil.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I don't know. I see like I can see that at least the international media is actually seeing this as a real problem, and not just like because in many of his interviews, Bolsonaro actually said that it was like a common thing in the forest. Like I said before, it could be like normal fire like during the dry season, or it could be local fire made by local farmers there, like small farmers and everything, not made by the agribusiness. Like none of his interviews he actually talks about this problem. He actually say that yeah, it might be one of it could be a problem like this. The only one who actually said something like this was Lula in one uh, really long 1 hour interview. But yeah, and it's so that's exactly what I was saying before. It's pretty clear that which size he is with. So
Do you think that Lula is going all Fidel Castro there with the long speeches?
3 hours of speech.
yeah, we,
Fanboy.
yeah. It's actually it wasn't speech was an interview, a pretty I found a little bit aggressive interview, but I like it. I can share the link with you soon.
You say
But
it's aggressive. Can you
aggressive,
tell me more?
yeah, aggressive in a way like
The
it
journalist
was
was being an asshole, basically.
not just this because the journalist was there. She's always acting like this. She also has a very good interview with Ricardo Salles, the motherfucker who is in the environment minister now. So
He's
she has a pretty good
yeah.
interview with Ricardo Salles, and she also attacking him with some data, like with some facts that she could find, and she's actually doing the same with Lula. I said aggressive because at some point things get like blood start to go to the skin, and you can actually see like both of them making the voice louder and things that are always happening in those kinds of interviews, more or less, you know. and
Yeah.
and the other side, Bolsonaro has a lot of has many interviews about it, and has ones that he's actually doing a lot of he actually stops to do a very sexist joke in the middle of the interview, the open interview that he made about the Amazon, the fires in the Amazon, and he's always making look like it's nothing we should worry about, when we should be worrying more about it before the fires, because before the fires there was a lot of deals and actions that he did against um, those organizations, like not governmental organizations, and against preserving the forest itself, even making it like weaker, like being weaker, and make it in the law, like and actually supervised the big farmers in Brazil, or in actually like cutting out money in investment for not governmental organizations that are there. And also he fired, like we already said this, he fired the forgot his name, sorry, Ricardo Galvão, sorry, he fired Ricardo
Is he
Galvão,
like the?
the MP.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he also made other laws that give privilege to the agribusiness, like I was saying, against the animals, right? And he also changed the the director, like the president that runs FUNAI, that is the organization who take cares of the rights and the preservations of indigenous lands in Brazil. And the person that he put in there, it's it's a man that is also connected with the agribusiness in Brazil. And one of his main speeches is to actually reveal the indigenous lands. This is also another phrase, like another thing that Bolsonaro, actually another quote from him, is that it's like to feel indigenous for too much land. Like what it is. It's a pretty clear sign of what he's trying to do, like not trying to do, he's doing, and
Mm.
that's it's why he's there, like to give support and privilege to the agribusiness in Brazil. And the problem we having with Amazon now could be, let's see, let's say, like predicted, or could be seen before, if we were more aware about these other actions that he have been done before the fire. The fire is actually a consequence of the lack of supervising and the lack of interest in Bolsonaro and his party to actually preserve the forest, and actually have a, g- a more environment um, speech about it. He never had. And the fires that we see now is the consequences of this. It's like, yeah, that's it.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's
It's
no denying the
huge.
responsibility that this guy has, Bolsonaro, in enabling this industry that is clearly the one that's after the Amazon forest, right?
Mhm.
And it's not like Brazil is like this small country. Like the Amazon is huge, Brazil is huge, but the Amazon is not really geographically a huge part of the Amazon.
Mm.
uh, yeah, like we have a huge country, but
It, like
and
there's other areas where you could move all the agricultural and the big agro business there without having to touch the Amazon. But there's some interest there.
yeah, there are many interests there, because it's also like we have huge areas in the like the central part of the country, And in the south, there are also like big farmers in the south of the country. In southwest, it's a little bit more rare. And I don't know, but I think that it's also because it's the bigger centers we have in Brazil. The south also has like huge centers there, like, but it's the big cities that we have there, and that it's no interest to actually do agribusiness there where people can see what is happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more
Mm.
or less
Yeah.
the same reasons why they took it out the capital from the country from Rio and put it in Brasilia. That is actually pretty far away from the revolutionary center.
Yeah.
Is where there is more people there.
Yeah.
So you put it
Uh,
in a people say like in the middle of nothing, but it's not exactly in the middle of nothing. It's surrounded by agribusiness there. It's basically where we have more big farms in the country. So that was also a strategy, you know, like it's a strategy.
Have has anybody looked at let's say how these big agro business companies have like foreign capital into it? Like they're not only Brazil's own companies, but they could be like participated heavily by multinational corporations.
Yeah, I actually don't have much information about it, but I think they have, but the informations I have so far is that they mainly Brazilians, because it's pretty known in Brazil that we have a few families that they have been running those agribusiness and they have been owning places in Brazil for a really long time, and that's why we have a huge we have a huge problem about the land in Brazil. Like most of the lands in Brazil, they goes for a few numbers of families, and we have a huge movement that it's against this, and they want to make it like to divide more equally the lands. Is the MST? I don't know if you
Yeah,
guys
the
know
last work
about
movement,
it.
right? Julia, we actually had we had Marcos from Desmistificando a Izquierda on maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, talking about just this. It was super interesting to hear about what they're doing, and actually like really inspiring. Um, maybe do you know if like if those guys are sort of connected to PISOL or PSOL, the party you were talking about, Bolas and stuff like that? Is that connected to them, or do you know who they're like affiliated with? The
So
MST.
the PSOL has a few involvements there, as far as I can remember, and also the PT had some influence there too, but they mainly an organization by themselves. We have
Right. So then,
parties involved in there, like parties that actually support the movement, but it's a huge movement for one huge cause there, and yeah.
yeah, it's fantastic that you're doing these like occupations and using this. And I think Marcos said that they're like one of the biggest producers, like bigger than any like private businesses of something. I can't remember exactly what it was. I can't remember if it was like grains or something exactly, but like they're successful. Like this isn't just like some radical political movement. They're actually really successful with what they do. I don't have the statistics right in front of me, unfortunately, but yeah, it was really interesting to hear about it.
Yeah, yeah, they pretty successful and what they are trying to say. But the thing is, they are called and be treated as terrorists by the actual government we have now. And in many of his interviews, like Bolsonaro actually said that more than once that they terrorists, like they terrorists, and he's not actually saying that they deserve to be killed, but he's just saying like, oh, they terrorists and we have to fight it against them. That for me is actually the exactly same thing, and that has been happening for a while and grows stronger now because now we have more support from the government for what is happening.
Mm. just on that note of support for the government about what's happening, I noticed that Bolsonaro's approval rating has dropped below 30%, which I think is like an historic low for any president of Brazil. I mean, I'm just thinking about numbers. I know that Lula finished his term with like 87% approval. Like
Yeah.
amazing, right? But Bolsonaro has less than 30%. Have you been talking to any people like from Brazil about these things and like what
So
they
yeah,
feel?
this is actually a pretty like funny thing because you know, Lula is basically in jail because of these numbers. You guys should know. But it's just like also that so many right people, like people who actually vote for right parties there, they every time you talk to them, it's funny because they say like, no, I voted for Amoedo. No, it wasn't me. And it's just they're like, okay, so someone should recount that because it's
No,
Hmm.
nobody
like
votes for Bolsonaro, right?
but I guess this is actually due to this like mostly because like I was saying before, he is way too uncareful of what he tweets, and he's very I would say childish when he's tweeting. It doesn't sound like a authority of a country, you know. It doesn't sound like a representation of a huge country as Brazil. It sounds like I don't know, one of my brother's friends. They also really nice. I love
Totally.
them, but it's can you understand? Like they
Totally kids,
he did
teenagers.
he does jokes as the one that he did against Macron's wife, that it is a shame to actually see interview of the French president, like with the French president, saying that he feels sad for what Bolsonaro said. You know, it's just they're like, oh man, oh no, I want to hide myself, no, in a dark space when people ask us, you know.
It's really
So due to this child, and this is so clear and stupid things that he have been, I would use that word just to describe the things that he been saying there. So his actions are uh, so childish that even some people from the right parties, they actually not supporting Bolsonaro anymore, but they still support the speech that he have and that he has, and also they still support more the things that he does. So this is the thing that people have been thinking, like what is going to be in the next elections in Brazil. Maybe we're going to see Doria there, or maybe we're going to change the person but not change the speech, because the main reason, like I said before, the main reason why he's there now is because of his speech. He's very conservative in the things that he's saying, and he makes it clear that he supports the agribusiness in Brazil. That is one of the male bourgeoisie that we have there. So, like most of the rich people that we have in Brazil, they have this background. So it's pretty unlikely that we're gonna have something pretty different from him in the next elections, if we have a next one, because things are very tense now there. And he has also a military background. What actually scares me the most, because we all well know that we already have a military ship in Brazil. It was a military ship in Brazil, and lots of people die, and it was a very very dark times in our
Yeah,
history. Even if some people don't actually agree with this because they're not able to feel empathy for other human beings, just for their own capital. So yeah, things pretty tense in Brazil, and after the Amazon fires, things are getting more and
I
more
love saying
tense.
sorry. I was just going to say a lot of what you're saying reminds me of having any of you heard of Gabor Mate's book and is like an expert in addiction and trauma, and he talks a lot about
Yeah, it's
how
great.
power is a form of addiction,
He talks about what? Sorry.
and he thinks that people like Trump and Obama and loads of these people in power doing terrible things are like addicted to power. And I feel like hating for the fact that these people in positions of power should be given some kind of therapy and go through help with all their trauma. And he lists they've been traumatized throughout their life leading to this. Um, and yeah, power can be a form of addiction. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that for Bolsonaro, it's kind of a very similar situation where he seems to be addicted to power. And it's, I don't know, how do we get over this if so many traumatized people end up like their trauma manifests into them seeking power? I don't know, pushing that or their pain onto other people through their power, the powerful positions they are
You're
in.
dealing with a really
Like,
important
are they
question.
inherently people who
How people what? Sorry.
No, no, you keep going, Catherine. Sorry.
are sorry, are people who are addicted to power inherently people who are, you know, going to have traumatized backgrounds? I guess I suppose people like that are the ones most likely to want to seek that out potentially. I don't know. It's but anyway, what you said reminded me of that.
Yeah, it's just like just like this old saying that grandma used to say, like, if you want to really know someone, give them power and money. And so yeah. And then you see the true personality. But I think more than this, when we see movements like this, when we see like we now going through more fascist speeches going around the world all over again, and we also see that this kind of empower also not just the leader itself, but also people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's a really, really good point. I think fascism does make people feel empowered in a very kind of perverse way, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's all about looking at people who have like less power than you and using that against them, using that to exploit them, you know, picking a target group, a disempowered group,
yeah,
and using that. And so it kind of, you know, I always sort of say like, if we look at like a hierarchy of understanding like where fascism points, fascism gets people in the middle and tells them to look down, people who are in worse off positions in terms of the societal hierarchy that we have, right?
hmm,
And that's what it builds itself upon. Socialists generally look up and see that the problem's coming from up. We look at, you know, like the 1%, the global elites, yada yada yada, etc., etc.
hmm,
But yeah, if people are getting high on this power, I mean, it's a huge problem. I mean, you can hear it. You can hear it if someone says something really like racist, if someone says something really like homophobic, anti-Semitic, sexist, whatever it might be. That's them sort of flexing their muscles, you know, that sort of little
yeah,
high that they get where they put someone down without needing to make any kind of valid critique, you know, just falling back on some old form of hate speech, you know.
yeah,
It gives them that little dopamine rush that I think Dr. Gabor Mate was talking about, as you were saying, Catherine. You know, so so yeah, it's false. It's an artificial high. You know, and it doesn't really
yeah.
make anyone better.
It's an artificial high that actually can be like real damage. As we have been seeing, like after Trump, the attacks against the Latin community and the Black community in US as being like way bigger. You know, we
Yeah.
have been more assaults, and people don't feel like this is wrong anymore. You know what I mean?
Oh
Because
yeah.
speech
Totally.
Yeah.
actually um, gives more power for people to do that. We have been also seeing this in Brazil against the LGBTQ plus community. So, and this is like this is one of the things that I was more concerned about when he actually came. He actually became the government, the president. But beyond the clear support he's giving to agribusiness, and we know how toxic this it's has been in Brazilian society, more than just in economical ways. Because when we actually look to the economical, to the Brazilian economy now, we can see that it's basically is based on agribusiness, and but the damage that this kind of business have been done so far in our society, it's it's so worse. Like, and this is something that it was concerned me too, but this is something that it was so happening in other government. Even in when we have the PT, of course, he was supporting some some percentual of the agribusiness interests, but he was also implementing so many social projects there. We have like Bolsa Familia and other projects that was actually used against him, in the end, mainly for people who actually are now supporting Bolsonaro or support him during the elections. So yeah, I'm not saying that the agribusiness in Brazil, like the past governments were not supporting the agribusiness in Brazil, but his support is being more and more clear and damaging social environment. I don't know if you can understand what I
No,
mean.
totally.
Yeah,
Actually,
and I think
sorry, you go ahead, Catherine.
other I was just going to say, I think it's really important that you use. I was reading earlier that at the moment Trump is trying to vaporize logging restrictions in a 16.7 million acre national forest. I think he's kind of using what's happening in Brazil as like not a scapegoat, but to hide behind, because everyone's so Brazil that Trump can, in the meantime, get away with a lot more than he normally would in terms of the environment, because everyone's not looking towards America for once. So I think we really need to look out for that as well.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that was actually the other point that I was talking with, since we are talking about this now, this is exactly the other point that I was talking with Paul in the beginning of the week. We have been victims, like we have been seeing a few murders in Germany, and unfortunately, some of them were made by immigrants. Like the last one we had, like the last one I heard about it was a little boy, like 8 years old, who was pushed in front of a train uh, in Frankfurt, and his mother actually saw her boy
It's so
died.
sad.
Yeah, it was really sad and really painful, but it this gives.
Yeah, that was a really tragic.
Sorry, Paul. What?
It slightly broke up there. There was a
Hey,
slight Eritrea, and they pushed both an 8-year-old and the 8-year-old's 40-year-old mother in front of this high-speed train, and the mother was able to like roll out of the way of this train like really quickly, but like her little kid just got, destroyed.
Yeah.
That's
And it's so awful, but
terrible.
unfortunately, like it seems like AFD, the Alternative for Germany party, are using that as like justification to really double down on their anti-immigration efforts. Sorry, Julia, if you want to take over there, please.
Yeah, it's more or less like this. Even if they haven't been made like a clear interview about it, at least I haven't seen, but it is pretty clear what is going on, because we can hear if you go out on the streets, and sometimes if you stop to listen what people are talking about, read the comments and everything, you can see like mostly people support the the AFD. They are actually saying like, can you see, that's what they are talking about. And now I also had a situation like, um there was a guy was explaining to me why people vote for AFD, like if it is an excuse to support hateful speeches, you know. And one of the things that he said was about what happened there. Like all these people they have to be deported, they have to be like it. And then we start to talking about, we go over again the thing between revenge and justice, you know that it's a very fine line, and things are getting aggressive around here over those attacks, like over what happened, you know and yeah, we can see that this kind of hateful speech, they they gain more space after what is happening around the world. And what happened here in Germany was pretty sad and pretty painful for, I think, for everybody, because we cannot imagine how painful it is to see it
like
was
the
a kid,
incarceration.
and it is even more painful to see that this horrible thing that happened is actually being used to produce more hate, you know and further attacks against the immigrant community here. um, yeah.
I mean, it's
It's
tragic.
awful.
It's
Really
tragic
awful.
that we have like all those fascists rising into positions of, let's say, mobilizing in even power. Like we have fascists here in the parliament right now, and it's like that bad. But one of the things that we need to do is that we need to put out there all the time to counter all these motherfuckers is that they pit the one before the last, and they pit them against the last one, and mostly over lies. Like they come to take your jobs, and they come to steal from you, and they don't know the law and the culture and bullshit like that, which are absolute flat out lies. They're lies. They lie through their teeth, because the only thing they can do is seek for power. You know what I mean? So, you know, we need to stop them on their tracks. Like fascists are not acceptable in our societies. And in a way, this discourse is like so obviously stupid. Like these people are not coming to take anybody's job. They're just getting a job, and the ones that are taking away the jobs are the bourgeoisie, the company owners, who are just getting rid of many employees they don't need anymore. I don't know if it's making sense or not.
Um, are you able to hear us?
uh
Because I don't think I couldn't hear anything that you said there, unfortunately. So this is going to be something that we're going to need to assemble later on, like in the edit, I think, because I feel like you
yeah.
just gave the speech, and I suspect the audience could hear everything perfectly fine. Um, but I just think through Google Hangouts, what we're using, I don't think we were able to fully pick you up there.
Someone said it's cutting out a little bit in the chat.
Okay, right.
Someone said what? Sorry, I'm going back to the.
It's cutting out a little bit for them, the
Okay.
stream.
Yeah, that's the way of the stream, gang. Way of the
Anyway,
stream.
I think what we need to do is to counter the Nazis, at every step of the way, and those discourses of pushing like hatred of the one before the last against the last, in this terrible, let's say, structure that we have, right? And yeah, we need to call on that bullshit. Call it out. It's a web of lies. They're not taking anybody's jobs. They're not stealing and doing more crime than any other people. So, the point is to get that speech, to cut it out like right away, because otherwise they're gonna get in power. But it's a lie, and it's so easy to show that it's not true. I don't know if you guys can hear me now.
Partially.
I
I
could
think
hear part of it, and the thing that I want to point it out is that most people actually say like, "Oh, they're stealing our jobs." They have no idea what it is to be immigrant in a country. It's not like this. You don't find a job like this. You don't earn the same amount of money and don't earn the same salary as like people like earn at the first. It takes you like a long way to actually make your life more stable in another country. I mean, I'm not a refugee, and I bet that for them can be way more hard because they here in another circumstances that I am. But even for me, as much when I was in Ireland and now here in Berlin, it is hard. It's not easy like this. It's not like this. We don't go steal the jobs. It's not like this. It's
Yeah, the thing
way
is,
more complicated, and it's also linked with um we like mostly like badly paid,
and
and
it's
this is
never the it's never the migrants. It's always the
yeah,
company owners. It's always
exactly
it's
exactly
always the
what I was
companies that take the jobs away, not the people who want to get a job. And
yeah.
that's the thing that gotta, and it's so simple. It's so easy. It's there for everyone to see that
Yep.
it's
But the
company owners. It's not the migrants. It's the company owners. It's the people who want to save to buy another luxury car at the expense at the back of their workers. Just that they can fire one and have the others do all of the job for them, and then get like more surplus. Because yeah,
Yeah, that's the thing. And then, but it's easier to point it out someone who
I think
lives close by you than actually pointing out a whole company that you've never seen who actually runs the company. Like it's easier to actually beat up an immigrant that you've seen on the street that actually go and fight against company. You know what I mean? This is how like fascism have grown in spaces, not just in Germany, but also other parts of the world. That say, Catherine, want to say something? I'll be quiet. Sorry.
that's why I'm
sorry.
saying that
I
it
just
in a way it's our job to point out those motherfuckers. You know what I mean?
I it's because of the lag, but I was just going to say I think it's really interesting because I think it kind of relates back to what's happening in Brazil. It's so much based on the blaming the individuals, and that's what we see in Brazil, where it's constantly I don't know throughout about how the solution to what's going on in Brazil is for everyone to be vegan, and PETA has posted so much about how vegan in order to save the trees in Brazil when it's not about, and it's just individualizing the issue as always, like as in like if people adopt a more plant-based diet, then that will somehow save the trees in the Amazon. And it's true that like like a lot of the trees are being cut down to making like animal agriculture businesses or expanding them, but that's that's like fundamentally it's a problem that with like capitalists are finding it more and more difficult to find areas of land, so they need to keep trees to make more and more profit. And I think the same with what's happening with blaming individual refugees and like people coming into the country as opposed to blaming the government. And the same with when I don't know, a lot of the hashtag of pray for Brazil I find really frustrating as well, because I do think there's anything wrong with it, but at the same time you need to be doing more than just praying. It's such an individualistic response as well. You need
Yes.
Totally. Yeah.
And then this is
like
actually,
um,
sorry.
and yeah, it's just I find it really like the whole thing incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, exactly. This is actually a video that I
So
watched
yeah,
like pretty
so
much in the
thinking in terms
beginning
of
of.
individualism.
Oh, sorry, you were.
Sorry, you go.
Sorry.
I'm done.
Sorry, it's because of the lag. I thought you were finished.
No,
Sorry.
that's the problem. You go. I was finished.
Okay. Sorry. So it's actually a video that I watched like right in the beginning of all this, all the fires in the Amazon. There is a vegan YouTuber and also the owner of the one of the biggest website for veganism in South America. His name is Fabio Chaves, and he made a really good video about what is happening. And he said like, "Oh, let's put the hashtag Act for Amazon." you know and it was a little bit frustrating because right after I watched this video, Macron's actually came with this hashtag in his very polemic and controversial post, like we said before. So but yeah, we have to like if we can do something as individuals, it should actually be doing more than just watch things than just voting. You know, like we should act more. You know, and
Yeah, dual power structures, basically.
hmm yeah, we have to
Yeah,
change. Like, if we're dealing with in a capitalist system, and if the way we have to break it or change something now, it is changing the way we consume things.
Yeah,
You
and
know.
it's the same class of capitalists that are creating those narratives. You know, the same class of capitalists that are creating the problem are creating those false narratives that blame it on the individuals and
Mhm.
lifestyleism and whatnot. You know, it's just to deflect from their own fault, and not as individuals, not even as a collective, but as a system, in
Yeah.
a system that favors profit on top of everything else, of other kind of responsibility, has to be by mere logic force. It has to be a system that is inherently destructive,
hmm
not just for the environment, but for the people, for everything it touches, it goes to shit. This is because of capitalism and the capitalist culture, the climb on top of the ladder and climb and get rich on other people's backs, you know, and competition on top of everything, always competition. It's our mindset, and it's colonized. Everybody has it. Like we have in YouTube this bullshit cloud culture. How many subscribers do you have? I have more and you have less. And you're a smaller YouTube creator because you have less subscribers than this other big YouTube creator and whatever. And that's capitalist mindset there in our heads. And it's like let's tell our fellow employee on our boss because look, he did that and he stole a paperclip from the office. I'm gonna tell my manager so I can earn some points and then get a managing position. It's all that bullshit, that stupid, you know, colonization of our brains.
Yeah, true. And this is pretty much inside us as much as other problems we see in society as sexism. We were raised like this. But I don't know. I still feel like we can use part of this bullshit system to actually try to change it from inside out. You know, I don't know if you guys agree. Like, if you have
I
like,
mean, Engels did. Engels, I mean, like he was using his money to fund Karl Marx, to like do his writing and to really help sort of spread the word. Um, yeah, it's a complicated one. Should we be using these? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. What do you think, Avi?
I think it's tricky. I'm more for dual power structures. I'm more for the anarchist way, but you know, everything that helps helps.
burn them, burn them all.
No. The anarchists
I'm
like
kidding.
the
I'm
build a
joking.
dual power structure and save the Amazon by supporting probably the indigenous peoples there, giving them
Yeah,
means to fight the battle to counter these like boots on the ground, right?
yeah. This is actually one of the investments that were cut by the government organization there. They were also being accused and attacked by the president about what happened. You know, they also being accused with no proofs at all that they are involved in some kind of way in the fires, which has no proof and that it's no base argument. The only thing that he has to argue with, to say with this, is that he cut some investments there. He cut some money they were receiving to actually preserve, but it's actually pretty absurd in that you think that because of this they were like put the Amazon on fire so they could have more. That this doesn't make sense. So they could have more money to preserve the Amazon. It makes no sense. But yeah, yeah, I got you there. Yeah. So Karen go, and I couldn't say goodbye. Catherine's gone. Bye,
you know,
Karen.
sorry, I'm still here. I'm
I
still
couldn't say
back to that
goodbye.
much.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to go for the like turn off the mute the camera so it saves bandwidth. So it's if it's a bandwidth
Yep.
problem, it's gonna stop sending
Yep.
video, but still prioritizing the audio maybe.
Yeah, it's. I don't know if it's much better, but I'll try like this for a little
I
while.
don't know. Catherine's still there.
Ah, you freeze much less actually. It's pretty cool. On this side, it you can tell the difference.
Just to make, I was reading the message now. No, just a second. Catherine, you gonna stay with us?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I'm staying.
Yay!
I'm just. I think I'll just see if it's still bad with the camera off, then I'll go. But it seems to be okay for now. I
Go.
just couldn't hear you at all before. I was just kind of having to like guess what you were saying.
Mhm.
Sorry, I interrupted you. What were you saying?
We were talking about the influences of the system and what it was happening in Brazil this week, this month. All the complicated burning the Amazon. Let me see if I can find something.
We're blaming everything on the system.
But
Like
it
we
is.
left this all we do.
It's not like I don't feel like we're just blaming everything in the system because
Just
it's
kidding.
so clear that it is actually in the system and what we have. Like we are supporting a system that it's not sustainable in the world we have. We have a limit amount of research or resources in the planet. So it is a system that is just here to eat out everything that it can, and that's nothing that it can gives back to social status. Like there's nothing can give it back to society besides projects. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's you know
I mean, like the best case scenario is just like we get some kind of like I mean within this system is that we just have like a social democratic kind of system where we have good programs and stuff like that, but ultimately you're still gonna keep bumping up against the same problems, the
Yeah.
same
yeah
like the same we're looking for infinite growth in a finite world, and it's just never going to really work. And also, Catherine made a really really good point before. I think when we were talking to Marcos from Desmistificando a Izquierda, I think
Hmm.
I think she was mentioning about how like all of these social democratic countries, the sort of the well-known ones like Norway and Sweden and Denmark and all these places, they're just living on the backs of the developing worlds, of the global south. Marcos made the point that Norway, despite being one of the most progressive countries in the world, is like really contributing to the deforestation of the Amazon, like by buying up like so much of the wood from there. um, Even if you look at other like social democratic countries or countries where social democracy is present, like France, you've got those 14 countries where they're paying post colonial taxes, which is making them like permanently poor. These countries in Africa are being maintained in this sort of lower position so that the people of France can have this luxurious lifestyle, so that they can have their free healthcare, their free education, their free etc., etc. Just choose whatever piece of social democracy you want to and fill it in there. So yeah, I don't know how we can sustain this. I don't know how this is going to work. 100 years from now, especially with climate change, with all of these
Yeah.
issues. These other countries are going to be getting messed up. There's not that much more we're going to be able to take from them. Like if the countries are like underwater or something, like if the countries are
Mhm.
gone, how are we going to keep on exploiting them? Or the people have migrated and left because there's no jobs or whatever it might be. So I don't see how social democracy is ever going to be sustainable, you know.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
that's the thing. Like, that is another another fact that I actually forgot to clear it out. Like, Norway and Germany, they are the male investors in the Fundo Amazonia. That it was actually the found that other countries, the international found that other countries could put money to preserve Amazonia. And when the fires started and it became public and all the all the mess, all the chaos that came with part of the chaos also because Germany and Norway, they put themselves, like they said clear, that they would stop giving money to this fund if this kind of problem wouldn't stop happening in the Amazon forest, if the fire was not going to be controlled as soon. And after some financial pressure against the government, then we start to see more actions, like the Brazil army went there to actually cut off the fire, like to stop the fire. But came with a lot of financial pressures, like Germany and Norway, and also France and Ireland right after, with the trying to stop the deal between Mercosur and Union European. So like I said before. So yeah, it's actually funny that we have one of the biggest ambassadors in the Fundo Amazonia being the bigger but like the bigger buyer, like importing like so many wood from Brazil, like
And Norway has a very right wing government right now.
yeah.
It's this Erna Solberg and their gang. They're awful right wingers. They have the awful Sylvie Listhaug, who's this awful racist, proto fascist, racist platform party, which is the FRP, the party for the progress, progress, quote unquote, big air quotes here. But they're incredibly reactionary and right wing. They're incredibly hostile. I'm telling you this. I've been living in Norway. I know what it is to be a migrant there, and it's under that government, and it's they hate everything that is not Norwegian. And don't let anybody fool you with the good PR that Norway has outside. They've been voting incredibly right wing people for a while now, like collectively. There's incredibly very good people, and the culture is still like collective. Let's say collective oriented because of the old culture of Norway, but capitalism has made a lot of damage in that country, like the culture, the mindset, and it's going full foreign hating.
Jesus.
That government is really toxic, really
It
toxic.
sounds like it sounds like it's going full on fascist ethno state. I mean, it seems like that's the way it's developing, and that's
Yeah,
very worrying.
yeah, basically. I mean,
Um,
and that's it's because if you see Norway, you see like a few pockets of or poor people who are mostly migrants, and a few people who got their head blasted because of the system and the depression and whatnot, and then you have like all the rich people. All the rich people living in their fancy houses and living in this fantasy pillow world where they live super comfortable. But of course, very well separated from the misery of others, not just at a local level, but at a national level and an international level. So they have very good PR, and it in a way is well deserved because of the old Norwegian culture is very collective driven. But as of today, it's a toxic capitalist colonialist country. So super careful with Norway.
Yeah, yeah, I wasn't very
yeah,
much a part of this, but it's really good to hear this now, because then we can see that it's we having a bigger problems with fascism around the world, like even other countries that we might think they have a more left switch thoughts because of so many social interventions, like social projects that have been done in some countries. That this is a thing, is the thing in Norway. Maybe it's similar to the thing we have been seeing somehow in Germany, with people was actually supporting more the neo-Nazi party, if I can call it like this,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because
yeah. Go
it
for
is
it.
it is
It
how
It's
my
accurate.
husband call it. So I don't know. Is how my husband called it. But the thing is just like Germany has so many social projects, and most part of the population actually get a lot of benefits of this, and they cannot see that this is not a result of just capitalism. This is actually when other people think differently, like would have a more left-wing thoughts, they actually intervene in neo-capitalism, and then we have this pretty much democratic, um, yeah, governments that I don't think they are a solution at all. You know,
I mean, it could be like a different discussion,
Yeah.
completely like figuring out if voting every 4 years is considered a democracy or not.
mhm.
But you know, one thing that it's like
Mm.
very common to those dynamics of fascism is like on one hand they really thrive on shitting on when there's a capitalist crisis, when shit goes and hits the fan with capitalism, and there's like one of those cyclic crisis of capitalism. Then it's when fascists go like, oh, we're going to take advantage of this situation and blame it on someone, and then we rise to power. And on the other hand, for the capitalist powers, the fascists are like very instrumental because of that blame shifting gets them off the hook. So it's not on them anymore. So they can let the crisis happen, and then when things start to lift up, they start banking again and hoarding more wealth. That's one of the things, that is one of the reasons that we need to move away from capitalism, and why, like, say, reformism wouldn't work in the long term, because those crises would keep happening. So those and at the moment of the next crisis, there would be another opportunistic fascist that would take that violence and make it into a power grab. And also, like, getting like, I understand that reformism is good, like, for short term solutions for people who are suffering in the here and now, but
Yeah,
also
exactly.
keeping an eye that we need to move away from the cause that causes those problems. So in a way, yes, short term do those reforms, short term help those people who are in danger and who are having problems now, but always with an eye, with a mindset that says, okay, but because that's the first step towards the next step, which is moving away from capitalism and redistributing resources and wealth. And then this is gonna sound like a hot take, but like, redistributing the wealth that has been, as of today, hoarded, and eliminating the credit, all that fake money that financial powers have been making, which is
Yeah.
money that is made out of debt for tomorrow's production.
It's speculation money. It's not like it's based on speculations. No, it's not
Exactly.
based. Yeah, it's another thing. It's what it actually it's basically running the economy now. Speculation.
Yeah,
It's credit. Yeah,
Yep.
basically looking for solutions here, right?
yeah. The thing
Yeah.
with
Absolutely.
Say as well.
No, you go ahead, sir.
Oh, sorry, Paul, you go. No, you go. I was going to
No, 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 no. You go, Catherine. I haven't heard
move
from
on
you
to
in a
something
while.
else, but you can.
I'm just gonna talk some shit.
um,
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
I, I was just going to say, I think I really wanted to talk about grief as well. It's kind of a new concept to me, but it's something that really, really resonates with me. This feeling of like impending doom because of like with all the headlines of only having 11 years left to avert climate change, and with like fascism rising across the world. I think it's grief, or I don't know, I think it's not just for the climate, but with everything with AI and like decimating jobs, and how much it's impacting, especially the generations, and like with heightened mental illness and everything like that. Maybe we could talk a bit about our experiences with it, because I recently learned that there's the of like instead of post-traumatic stress disorder, there's like pre-traumatic stress disorder, which is like the feeling that we are having at the moment, where they're like becoming so traumatized by the idea of the impending doom of climate change and fascism, and all these problems are actually causing people to have the same symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, but before that stress has even happened. So I don't know, I think it's impacts have even happened, but I don't know, it's something that really that I feel a lot, like even just looking at some plastic or looking at the way the world, people, a lot of people around me don't seem that bothered. It just fills me with this dread and like sense of hopelessness a lot of the time, and especially that's going on in Brazil. It's just, it feels so incredibly overwhelming. So yeah, if anyone else is feeling like that, I would highly recommend Relief and feeling a little more feeling identified in the concept. But yeah, have you all had experiences like
Sorry.
that with
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, climate, I believe I was talking to another teacher who I work with, and he was saying that climate anxiety in particular is like becoming its own like mental illness at the moment. They're like in the process of sort of, he's a psychologist, right? And, he was doing a PhD and everything,
Yeah.
but he's a practicing psychologist when he's not teaching. um, but yeah, so he was telling me that climate anxiety is like a real serious thing. Like a lot of people are sort of planning their lives, expecting that they're not going to be able for example, like to have kids. Like a lot of people are just saying, no, we're not going to have kids because we don't feel like the worlds that they're going to inherit is going to be worth living in.
Have you listened to the latest
And
Vegan Vanguard
that's a major
podcast? Climate Grief, it was called.
No, I haven't.
By the Vegan
not yet.
Vanguard.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
not yet. Looking forward to that.
Yeah,
Can share this with
I'd
me.
highly recommend.
definitely.
Because I
We'll share
haven't.
it later. We'll share the link later.
Yeah,
But
perfect.
the
Perfect.
Vegan
Definitely.
Vanguard's latest podcast talks about all this stuff, about all the climate grief and how to deal with it. Like how does it operate and how we can deal with it eventually. It's very very interesting. Just leave it there.
From
Yeah.
your experiences, how would you say is like the best way to deal with it? How have you found to be the best way for yourselves?
The best way to
Deal with
find.
climate grief. I'm angry all the time, but it's a mix of climate grief, social grief, and my own grief. I'm just mad like a monkey all the time. Very low key. I manage to be nice with people and to try to lead by example, but basically I'm angry all the time.
I don't know. I think when we have a space to talk about it, it's also pretty. It brings a feel of relief that you can at least share and see what people actually have to say about it, even if someone very can be like can say other things that you don't actually will agree or think differently from you. Like talking about it and hearing what people have to say and sharing this with other people, it's a way not just to discuss possible solutions, but also to understand what is going on in society too, and not just with environmental problems. We also like with social issues, like for example, like sexism. Like when we were in class before, I don't know if you remember this, but like if someone says something and then you point it out that you think that it's very offensive because of something, like, or do you think that this is something like how can you think this, and then you react. It's also a way to deal with this frustration that we are living in this society and this planet now, and having so many problems that we cannot just like magical solve as individuals. I think like the debate and conversations are a better way to deal with this frustration, this anxiety. I don't know, for me it is. Don't know.
Yeah, I definitely feel that talking about it can be very, very helpful. For me, the best way of dealing with this anxiety and frustration um, is to feel empowered, right? And I think that getting this sense of feeling empowered for me came from joining a political, like a revolutionary political organization. I joined like People Before Profit in Ireland, a revolutionary socialist party. Well, actually, that's not the Revolutionary Socialist Party. They're connected to a Revolutionary Socialist Party, and they're sort of like quasi-reformist wing of the party, you know. But anyway, you're connected to the whole thing. Anyway, feeling part of that movement has been the best thing I've been able to do to make things feel a little bit more manageable, because I don't feel as helpless as I would, you know, if I wasn't doing anything, you know. So because I really do think that, like, individually we're very, very weak, but united we're very, very strong. And so when you're with a big group of people who are getting out and like marching down the streets of Dublin, or you're with a big group of people who are knocking on doors, you know, a couple nights every week, talking to people about these things, raising awareness, submitting bills to the government, emergency climate change bills, which People Before Profit did to the Irish government. Unfortunately, the Irish government, being a neoliberal group of pals who don't really want to listen to the far left, they didn't. They just table the bill, just forget about it, and it's a mess. But at least it feels like we're doing something to help, you know. And so for me, that's how I've been dealing with these things. It's the same way I deal with any like anxiety or stress about any kind of like social issue, or about like capitalism or whatever. Just joining a group of people who are also trying to make things better. Anyway, that's how it's worked for me, but I'm not sure.
There's
The rest
this
of you.
old slogan from the alternative Spanish scene that says "Organize your rage, organiza tu rabia, organize your rage." And I got like
Yes.
this, like, if you
I like
Yeah,
that idea.
totally.
mess with the planet, then you mess with all of us. If you mess with the environment, then you mess with the working class. Trans rights, motherfuckers.
Oh yeah, trans rights.
Trans
I was
rights.
reading the
Fuck
messages
yes.
and I this is really important. This is another huge issue we have in society, like when people don't actually see trans people the way they actually are, you know, like, and this is a serious problem I've been dealing with, like in Brazil has been like a huge problem. So yeah, trans rights, like we need to give more and more support to this community that I have been seeing like they being smashed down by hateful and far right speeches, like and it's, you know what, I have to say, like, what bothers me most is when even the left has some speeches about trans people and how we should deal with this. I just like, what the fuck is this? What you're saying? You know, like, I think it's so insane. I don't know if you remember, Paulo, when we were talking about the conceptions of gender and this feminism, you
Hmm.
know, and some feminists is actually, how can you call yourself like this, saying that that a trans woman cannot be part of the movement because they don't consider trans women as women, and this is so bullshit. Like, how can you put yourself in the movement and have this so disgusting speech like this, you know, like, and this is actually pissed me way more than just some far right piece of shit saying shit like they always do,
Yeah,
you know, like it's someone that is part of the movement and will say something like
it
this.
is. It is
So I think
surprising
trans,
the amount of denial that these people need to have
Totally.
to not be intersectional at this point in time. Like, hello, you know, the amount of denial. It's incredible. It's incredible. Like,
yeah.
of course, all of the oppressions are interconnected, and of course, they kind of stem like from the same point. You know. Anyway, I'm gonna give like a very quick shout out to Mr. Red, talking about the green T-shirt, and it's when I do streamings, I'm gonna do something quick. When I do streamings, I have this thing. It's horrible, okay, and I wear T-shirts, but you know they're never in the frame. That's what the T-shirt is supposed to be. You know, it's supposed to be funky, like groovy lemonade. And it fails because it's not in the frame. But whatever. Sorry about the derailing the thing a little bit, but yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't actually hear it, but
Yeah.
Yeah, me neither. I couldn't hear anything, unfortunately. Hey, just one thing. This is totally unconnected. I'm sorry, Avi, that we didn't hear what you were saying. You know that we have this term like TERFs, trans exclusionary radical feminists. I still don't get why we call them radical feminists. Like, there's nothing radical about being that. Why I don't understand why we haven't just changed radical to reactionary. You know, trans exclusionary reactionary feminists,
Yeah.
right? I mean, because that's kind. It doesn't. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean that seems like a more accurate,
I'd keep
um,
reactionary
way of using
because
it.
the word TERF
yeah.
sounds so shitty. It sounds dirty. So reactionary is fantastic.
Hmm.
TERFs are reactionary. TERFs are actually very reactionary people. TERFs could be almost an IZI people. So, yeah, TERFs are fascists.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't
I
catch
didn't hear that
that.
again.
So,
Me neither.
It was great.
I'm
Nobody's
so
listening to
sorry.
what I'm saying.
So
so
sad.
Good thing
sorry.
it's all gonna be recorded, though.
I'm so sorry.
It's fine. I'm just
Just
gonna
didn't
stop
hear
talking
any of
now.
that,
Shall
Abby.
we?
Catherine, what were you gonna say?
We've been going for almost 2 hours, so we could
Yeah.
stop it here if you want, or what would you prefer?
What do you think? Julia and Javi, what do you think? Should we wrap this up and try and sort of piece everything back together for like a version that we can upload from both of our channels, both from my channel and from your channel? We can sort of like piece them together into one video, and also for the podcast, we can probably do something like that as well. Or do you want to keep going? I don't really mind. What do you think, Julia and Javi?
I have time, but yeah, whatever you guys decided, for me it's okay. But
Yeah, if you guys
yeah,
gotta
don't
be somewhere,
editate it
I'm
out
cool.
that much, Paul.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Don't editate it, the video that much, like leave it raw. Just put the beep when we swear. You put the beep. Just this is what.
Every time? Oh no, no, we can't do that. We can't do
Okay.
that.
It's
Okay.
fine.
Half of the conversation will be gone.
I'm demonetized anyway, so fuck it.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, whatever. If you guys
Fuck.
want to continue, I still have time. Um,
Julia, loads of people in the chat are
Let me see. Let me open the chat
saying that
again.
you should making videos yourself. Everyone wants you to make videos.
Yeah, we're gonna convince you to make a channel, basically.
I don't think that, unfortunately, I don't think that's gonna happen. Like that, I will have
Yes.
my channel.
Yeah, and at least until next week when it's gonna happen.
I would love this.
No, me on YouTube.
Julia,
I
make
don't.
yourself a channel. Please, Julia,
I
make
give a week
yourself
to
an
famous.
awesome channel. I can make some music for you if you need to. But please, make yourself a channel.
Yeah, you're killing it.
Woo! So okay, I will think about it, but I make no promise. But yeah, so I will think about it. I will think about
Yes.
it. And yeah, let me check it out the chat again to see.
Any other
Yeah,
points
Julia,
that you
how
wanted
about
to
a
discuss?
Twitter? At
about
least a Twitter.
no, I hate Twitter, Paul. I really hate Twitter. I have zero patience for Twitter. Like really, no. I was just like, since they like since this
At
thing
least
came
Twitter.
out, and in Brazil. Everybody was
Can you guys hear
talking
me?
about it, and just like all my friends
Oh,
in the
cool.
school, they were in it, and I was just like, really, guys, it's the place that you go and
Anyway,
just
thank you so
find
much
the
for coming on. It was really, really great.
oh,
I don't know what just happened. I think it kind of cut off again. Hello, Paul?
wait, sorry.
I think Paul dropped out. Yeah, the streaming is going, so that's cool.
Okay, okay. So, what were you saying, Catherine? Sorry. No, I
I was
think
just going
Paul's
to
still
ask
here.
if there were.
Say,
Oh, Paul is back, I think.
yeah.
If there are any last things that you wanted to discuss.
No, I can actually say and share some of the interviews and some of the videos that I watch about the Amazon fires. They would have way more information that I was able to speak, like that I was able to say, because I get a little bit uh, confused and go with the with the flow sometimes.
We
So
all
if
do.
you want, yeah, sorry guys, if you want more information, I can share the links that I used to actually make my to make a small script. So yeah, but the unfortunately most of the things are in Portuguese. I can share the videos that you can try to put some subtitles. I don't know. I have this pet, you
That's
know.
why we have you to decode the information that is in Portuguese, because we don't speak Portuguese. We are lame. Well, Paul kind of does though.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
Paul
I
does.
can
It has a
pretend.
video of him speaking Portuguese. It's really nice. It's a
I
really good
pretend.
video, actually.
I,
Oh, thank you for saying that. It's not true,
I've gone as far as
It's
Portuñol.
truthful.
but
It's a good video. I mean, the what you're saying is really important, and then it's really good. Like it is really good. As a native speaker, for me, I have to be honest with you and say that I thought it was a little bit too cute.
yeah,
Because I speak the
that's
language,
that's why I
so
don't.
yeah.
Yeah, that's why I don't speak Portuguese because I sound like a 3-year-old or
Don't do
4-year-old
that,
or
Paul.
something. You know?
That's not an excuse, okay?
That
That's not an
that's what happens
excuse.
when you learn a language from the wife. She teaches you all of the sweet and cute stuff.
That's
Yeah,
so accurate.
I'm in this boat. I'm in the exactly same boat right now
Yep.
in Germany,
Been
trying
there,
to
done
learn
that a couple of
German.
times.
Yeah. Smash
Yeah.
capitalism, everybody.
Yeah,
Bash the bash.
fast fashion.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can share with you guys. I can share more the videos if you want, but that is a lot of good things that I watch in BBC News. Um, and you can also find more about it in the Guardians and like basically all the newspapers. You sh- you do some you try to Google it, you see a lot of information about it. But I definitely can share with you the videos that I was watching about the Amazon fires.
Yeah, hand them
And
over and we'll put them in the description below.
okay, I will send it all to you. So
Yeah, when we're done here, I'm gonna have to do like a lot of editing because I had to put this together like in a few seconds. So
okay, okay.
send them over.
I will. I will. About the murders of the murders in Frankfurt, about the little boy that was killed. You can also find like pretty easily online, but I will send the news that I've been reading about it. And I think this is the only one in English since that I don't speak German yet. So this is I
Yet.
think that this is the only one in English. But yeah, so that's it. It was really nice to be here. I really love it. I
Thank you
hope it
so
was good
much.
for you guys too.
So good to have you, Julia. A lot of
Yeah, it
wisdom
was so
there.
nice to talk to you and hear your perspective. I really enjoyed it
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here too.
more, but it was really nice what I heard.
So we're gonna wrap it up here with a message to all our leftists here in the chat or watching this, whatever. Just saying, people learn a few foreign languages, as many as it's allowed for you to learn, because it helps you be better internationalist.
Yeah.
It helps you
Yes.
understand the world in different ways, because languages wire our brains. And so if you can, and if you can afford it, go for it. Go bananas, because it helps you be a better internationalist.
Yeah, and it's also a really good way to grow some empathy for other cultures. Like you can understand culture also through the language. There is a lot of things in the language, in the words, and how we communicate ourselves in a different language that actually tells a lot of the culture who actually like own this language, when this language come from. That's a lot of history in how we construct, even how we structure our grammar. There is a lot of history there, and it's a really good way to learn more about other cultures when you learn their language, when you learn another language.
Hell yeah. You don't just learn a language, you learn a culture. It's so
Yeah,
important.
that's so true. So true.
Okay, so I guess we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much, everybody. Javi, can I just say thank you so much for saving this stream?
We're
Goodness.
a team, gang. We're a team.
This is the Socialist Sunday stream dream team.
Yeah.
So thank you all to our comrades around the world for joining the socialist. What a terrible D there. Socialist stream. Woo!
Amazing.
Thank you all, gang.
Wow.
Thank
Thank you and thank
you.
you to everybody in the chat. Thank you so much, everybody. It was great for you to. Thank you so
Woo!
much for your patience.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye, gang.
Thank you. Thank you for
Bye.
inviting. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you so